Leanna Hawkins, and we are at the 2023 Leadership Summit. I am joined today by Cesar Alvarez. Cesar received the Lifetime Achievement Award today at the summit, and we're so honored to have him here today. He is a senior chairman at Greenberg Traurig. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Cesar, you again have won the Lifetime Achievement Award here today. And even just in our discussions before filming, you have such an incredible life story, family story, many ways that you've used your career in finance and law to help people of all different backgrounds, immigrants in America and otherwise. Tell me a little bit about how you came into your law career and your family history.
Well, start with my family history. Not that I remember, but the day I left Cuba was July 28th, 1960. Mm-hmm. And I do remember it was a Tuesday. And I was awakened by my mother and saying, we're going to Miami on vacation because the communists have already been in Cuba for about a year. And if they knew that you wanted to leave Cuba, they would confiscate everything you have and would make it very difficult for you. So my mother couldn't tell us what the reality was. So I went. The only unusual thing that I should have noticed at the time is that she was putting gold medals and gold charms, etc., because you couldn't take money. So they bought jewelry, so we could take jewelry and have the little money when we came here. There was a ferry that used to go from Havana Harbor to Key West, and we got on that ferry. 6 hours later, I was in Key West. My father asked for political asylum, and obviously we got it. And I have been here ever since, and very grateful to the country that gave me asylum, that allowed me to in fact, participate in life in a way that I'm not even sure I would have been able to do in Cuba. The trajectory to law school is Cuban families are very focused on education. So I knew from day one that education was not a choice if I wanted to live. And so if I wanted to live, I had to go to school, which is what I did. I went to the University of Florida. I got my undergraduate degree, an MBA, and my law degree. And after that, they, basically told me, other than being a doctor, there's no other degree left here. And I can't stand the sight of blood, so I said, I'm going to go get a job. And Mel Greenberg, who was the managing partner of Greenberg Traurig, went to the University of Florida to talk to his buddy from law school, who was a professor there, see if he could recommend a Cuban to him, because he actually was looking for a Cuban, because Mel discovered, at least in his mind, that the Cubans were not going to go back to Cuba as soon as we thought we were going to do.
Right.
And so he wanted somebody that was Cuban to penetrate the Cuban community that was beginning to be successful at the time and get businesses, etc. So he offered me a job, and then I started working. That was 51 years ago, and I have been there.
Wow.
I've been there ever since, and I had not intended to do that. I intended to start a law office with my brother, who was a year younger, and because I got an MBA, we were graduating from law school at the same time. But Mel was a very good salesman and said, that's not a good idea for either one of you, and he gave us some advice, and we followed it, and it was the right advice.
And so you're still based in Miami now. You're now an American citizen, and you serve clients of all different backgrounds and ethnicities, origins. What are the types of cases that you and the firm typically take on now, and how are you still impacting immigrants all over the world, and particularly in Miami?
Well, I would say about 30 years ago, I basically stopped practicing law and got involved in the management of the firm. And I was the CEO and chairman of the firm for many many, many years. So I wasn't practicing law from that respect, but I certainly was in a position to approve what cases we took, and we didn't case in that position. We run the firm as a business, and the kind of law that we do is business law. So if you're a business, we're gonna be representing you, and that's what we do. We do business type cases, mergers, acquisitions. That's what we're here, taking companies public, doing all of that is what we do. On my non-legal time, I had spent doing what I thought really benefit me, which was education. Mm-hmm. So I served on the board of Miami-Dade Junior College, which is the biggest junior college in the country. It has like 120,000 students. Florida International University, which again is huge, has about, 55,000 students. And the reason I picked those is because those universities tend to focus a little bit more on those folks who maybe were not the great achievers in high school, and they need a chance, because that's what happened to me. When I went to high school, as I like to say, I was focusing more on my interpersonal skills than I was in my academic skills. And so when I graduated, I realized, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And so I had to focus on my academic skills, and I did, and I did well. But I understand how you may graduate from high school and not have been ready. Mm-hmm. And so helping those folks, helping them mentor, I particularly, in the Hispanic and African American communities where I know that there's a gap between the percentage of the population and many of the professions that we follow. You have to do more than just telling them that they can make it, et cetera, et cetera. You have to have real life examples of people who have made it that look like and speak like they do, whomever they are. And so for a Hispanic, I can be a pretty good role model saying, this is what you can do. Right. And try to overcome that deficit that occurs. And so I do that with undergraduate students that want to go to law school. I will meet with anybody at any time, and particularly if they need help like that, and I would mentor them and give them an idea and try to motivate them and let them know, hey, you can make it. And yes, you're going to fall down and you're going to feel like quitting, and all of that is going to happen. But you got to get up again, because the only way you will succeed is by getting up again and getting up again and getting up. So I can serve as a mentor in that way to help. All of this comes from what happened a week after I arrived in the United States. My father took myself and my brothers and sisters to dinner. And that's the first time that he tells me that you're going to live permanently in the United States. He said, you're going to be here. You're never going to go back to Cuba, regardless of what happens. Right. I had a little girlfriend in Cuba. I didn't get to say goodbye. I'm devastated over this news. But he says, and he did two things that obviously I never forgotten. Number one says, look, always be proud that you're Cuban. Always be proud that you're Hispanic. But now you're going to be an American. Mm-hmm. You got to learn the culture. You got to learn the language, and you got to assimilate. And for that, he moved us to North Miami, which is about 20 miles from Miami. I didn't grow up around a single Cuban friend. I don't have a Cuban friend from my childhood, because my father isolated us so we would assimilate. Yeah. That was the one message he had. The second message was, we're immigrants to this country. And what that means is that you're going to go to schools, you're going to go to hospitals, you're going to use public means that I didn't help pay, and nobody in your family helped pay. Mm-hmm. So it's your obligation to leave whatever you do in this country better than when you found it.
I love that perspective. And obviously, you're being given the Lifetime Achievement Award not only for your professional experience and your professional accomplishments, but I think from the conversation we had before shooting and now that it's even much more so for your personal accomplishments and your impact that you've had on the lives of other people's careers and families. What is the number one thing that you would say has been the most rewarding about your career, in law or otherwise?
The most rewarding. Lunch has been very rewarding.
Well, lunch is fantastic at New York Athletic Club.
It's like people ask me what's going to be your goal. I said, well, my next goal when I start having breakfast with them is lunch, and then after that, dinner.
That's the simple life.
That's a simple life. No, what is the most rewarding part is lawyers that I have mentored, that I first met them when they graduated from law school and they didn't know anything and didn't know how to practice law and didn't know how to deal in the world, etc. And that over the years that I spent time with them and I mentor them, and then to see them succeed, it's just a great joy that I can't, from a business viewpoint, there is no greater joy to me than to see that happen. Obviously, my personal is different, but from a business, that would be it. And I have been lucky enough to see some of them do incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that the ones that you've been able to mentor shine their light very brightly in terms of the way that lawyers can help serve others, and not necessarily maybe some of the bad connotations or negative connotations around, oh, people don't like lawyers. But I think that a lot of the examples of the work and the cases you've taken on show that, lawyers are really there to help people, and people of all different backgrounds and ethnicities, and your career and just who you are as an individual is extremely impressive.
Well, look, lawyers are human beings. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get some good ones and you're going to get some bad ones. And, people tend to focus on the bad ones, but it's interesting people as a whole do not like lawyers, but they like their lawyer.
I love mine.
Oh, that's what
I never understood why there was an issue.
Exactly, that's, because you relate to them in a different basis. Uh-huh. I lecture sometimes on business generation, how you generate business as a lawyer, et cetera. And I use this little doll that I found many years ago. I was at a Christmas party and I saw a bunch of people on one side having a great time. They're laughing and they're doing. I said, well, let me go see what's going on. So I get over there, and what they're doing is there's this little doll that had come out this year, which looked like a lawyer, like dressed like a lawyer, and it had attached together with Velcro arms, Velcro legs, Velcro head, and so what they were doing is ripping the lawyer apart, and they thought that was fantastic. They thought that was the best thing that you could possibly do. Okay, and so I said, I have a good sense of humor. So when I get to my office on Monday, I tell my secretary, I want you to get me 20 of these. I'm going to send it to my clients. So at the end of the day, she comes back and she says, you won't believe this. By the way, that year, they not only have made little dolls like lawyers, they made them like accountants, they made them like plumbers, they made them like electricians, they made them like doctors. Everybody was covered. He said, all the lawyers are sold out. I said, we can get as many doctors as you want. We can get every other profession was covered, but not the lawyers, because people hate the lawyer. And I said, this is, if you think about it from a business generation, this is terrific. Mm-hmm. Because now all you got to do is be a little different than that lawyer. Yeah. And if you're a little different, they're going to love you. And so that's a little bit, sort of like congressmen. If you talk about people about Congress, they hate Congress, but they They elect their congressman. They love their congressman. So that kind of happens with the lawyers.
Well, I think it's also, a generational thing, and having other people that have achieved such success in an honorable way in their career like you have, and have, a very full family and personal life as well, that have and hopefully are still continuing to inspire young lawyers to maybe act and live their lives differently according to their own personal values, and not what society may have in the past thought of lawyers. So
let's hope so.
Yes. Well, again, congratulations on your Lifetime Achievement Award today, and we're very lucky and blessed to have you here with us today.
Thank you, and thank you for your help.
Thank you. And you're watching M&A TV.